Today, we're going to be learning about a very small indie game that only has 1,000 wish lists, made by a small team of developers that were very passionate about gaming. To be transparent, I was given a free copy of this game to review, but after playing it, I realized this is something you should put on your wish list, or, I don't know, just flat out buy at full price. Because while this game does have problems, and I will be talking about them, the good far outweighs the bad. This was something I was excited to come home from work to play. Today, we're going to be talking about Soul Dier Part 1. Soul Dier is developed by Pon Pop Pock Pock Software, a two-person team based out of Hong Kong using Godot engine. The same engine Brotato, Cruelty Squad, and even Sonic Colors Ultimate uses. One of the major inspirations for Soul Dier is the Tales series, mainly the cross-bell duology, but Soul Dier draws influences from many classic JRPGs. Personally, I see them being inspired by Ark the Lad, Twilight of the Spirits. Why that one specifically, you may ask? Well, that's because that's the only Ark the Lad game I've ever played. Now let's go back a little bit. Remember how I said this was a game made by two developers? Gawehold and Weonix were both computer science students at a university and shared the common hobby of composing music. That's right, they made the game's music themselves. They coded the entire game and even wrote the story, with just two developers splitting their workload. Gawehold would lean more towards story, visuals, cutscenes, and graphics, while Weonix focused more on battle systems, model animation, and system mechanics. Gawehold and Weonix, sounding like Transformers to me right now, originally planned on making the game in 1.5 years, but they ended up spending 5 years making the first half of this game. That's right. What I'm showcasing to you is the first half of Soul Dier right now, with the second half still being in the works. The story of Soul Dier begins with a simple premise. You play as Curtin, an amnesiac who wakes up in a forest only to be attacked by a group of men driven by nothing but the instinct to destroy, also known as sinkers. Curtin is saved by a man named Al, who suggests traveling to a library on an island town to recover his lost memories. Perhaps along the way, Curtin will discover who or what he truly is. That's the setup, and while it sounds promising, the game's story doesn't go much deeper than that, at least at the beginning. The other issue is the characters you meet along the way are shallow, with characters having motivation but not character. More than half of the party consists of people who just meet Curtin and decide to tag along for no real reason. To put this in perspective, it'd be like pulling over to help someone who has car trouble, and they told you that they were on their way to the grocery store. And then you just decided to go with them. Forget your plans, forget your life. John needs hemorrhoid cream, and apparently that's your problem now. Compare that to something like Baldur's Gate 3. Where your party is bound together by a mind flayer parasite in their heads. They don't even like each other at first, but they stick together because they have to, and over time that turns into a genuine friendship. In Soul Dier, it's the opposite. There are no strong reasons for anyone to be traveling together. Most of the characters in Soul Dier, if a player was going to describe them, would be described by their weapon and their role on the team. Now, as the game progresses, the story does try to have more depth and conceptually better ideas, but the writing never conveys any of this. It never finds its footing. It's full of good ideas, but they're never given the weight or development that they deserve. For the most part, the plot only exists to justify the next level, the next fight, or the next boss battle. And that's it. The developers were also inspired by Hollow Knight for the visual design. That was mostly because they wanted the characters to be both cute and slightly uncanny, just like you would have in Hollow Knight. I don't see it personally, but that's what the developers said. This is one of those games where you either fuck with the presentation or you don't. Do you like the way the characters look, or do you hate it? In my personal case, I was willing to tolerate it for other reasons. The music, on the other hand, is solid. I have no complaints, and it fits the themes of the game pretty well. There's no track where I go, what the hell is this? But there's also no track where I go, I'm listening to this in the car ride home from work. Soul Dier is a grid-based, turn-based tactical RPG that revolves around ranged directional attacks. That has a directional defensive system, and everything depends on your positioning, line of sight, and use of cover and obstacles. That is the core of every battle. No random dice rolls, no hit percentages, unless you use a skill that blinds enemies, so now there is a percentage. There's no grinding, no farming XP, and no stat min-maxing. Instead, you use transformative upgrades, new skills, items, or charms that are automatically unlocked after completing each level. Consumable items also have a limited use per battle, but aren't permanently consumed, which means no hoarding items, so you can use everything you got in every single fight. This design keeps you from doing what you do in every Fire Emblem game, taking your main character and farming every single enemy until they become a one-person army. You can't over-level your way out of a fight. You have to actually play smart. Use your skills, perks, and items to your benefit to win every battle. Now, personally, I don't love this kind of system. I love leveling characters and breaking the game, but I'll admit, it works for this game. It keeps the game balanced. Now, I wouldn't call Soul Dier difficult, but I would call it challenging. I didn't lose often, but I always feel like I was barely holding on. And that's entirely because of the game's tight balancing. Yes, Soul Dier might not have deep RPG mechanics or grinding, stuff I usually like, but the creativity and intensity of combat scenarios makes up for all of it in full. Honestly, the strongest aspect of Soul Dier is its level design. Most grid-based tactical games are about simply overcoming enemy forces. But here, every level has its own unique concept and mechanic. And I'm genuinely not exaggerating when I say every single level feels different. Before they sent me the game, I only played the tutorial level and I'm like, this game might suck. Then I got to the sandstorm battle. I spent most of this mission manipulating the AI into looking into a sandstorm to blind them, giving me a tactical advantage. That was when I was like, hold on, wait a minute. Is this game fucking sick? Is this game good? Yes. Yes, it actually is. There's a tank fight where you face an AI-controlled tank and have to bait it into crashing into explosive barrels and other enemies while not getting shot at or ran over by it. You do all of this while fending off against heavily armored enemies. One of my favorites is the ventilation shaft mission. A claustrophobic brawl in a tight corridor. A daredevil fight scene in the making, where only one character can pass through the ventilation at a time. The goal? Stall the enemy till everyone can escape, forcing you to plan ahead so you can fully utilize your damage dealers and healers to be the most effective, while your tank survives the encounter, holding off the waves of enemies that are coming through the ventilation system. There's even a mission that appears only once in the game, where your entire party is fighting Mad Max style down a highway. One person has to drive the car while the others fight to defend it. And you have to position the car so you can minimize damage and effectively attack the other drivers. And then towards the end of the mission, the second half of the mission, you have to fight another AI-controlled tank that you have to keep behind you because your tank's sitting in the back of the car defending against it. Sick. And I wasn't going to spoil it, but there is a boss fight that I have deemed the gasoline boss fight. You fight a boss while knee deep in gasoline as it floods the room. And you have to blow up barrels to set the room on fire to burn everyone in the room. That's how you get the gasoline levels to go down. Why do you want the gasoline levels to go down, you ask? Because you're going to drown in gasoline. So you have to manipulate the gas levels by burning everything in the room. And not dying by your own strategic options. It's chaotic, it's tense, and it's absolutely fucking brilliant. Final thoughts, guys. If you can get past the story, or the presentation even, I highly recommend playing this game. The level design alone was worth the 5 years they put into this game. I would like to thank the developers for giving me this copy, because how else would I have found this fucking gem? So thank you, Gawehold and Weonix. I know I've butchered your names probably horribly like 10 times in this video. And your team's so small that I genuinely believe that chances are one of you got into contact with me and are probably going to watch this video. If you like this channel, like, comment, and subscribe. I try to review everything and anything that interests me. Old school, new school games, bad, good, it doesn't matter. I do plan on making a Halloween video, but it's getting a little late in the month to get it ready, okay? So we'll see. But thank you for watching, and see you next time.